Well, good morning, everybody. It is great to have you all here as we march boldly into the month of December. It is a time of great reflection and gratitude, and our organization wishes to share that with each of you. As we kick off this morning, I want us to be mindful of one of our brothers here in this organization, and you will likely hear or start to see Tommy Walker with Key Bank, of course, our title sponsor of our Safe Agribusiness Banquet, is awaiting a heart transplant and found out some very difficult news right before the holidays. So I'd ask that you keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to introduce our president, Mike Herron, with Vips Industries.
Thanks, TJ. It's great to see everybody here today, and I'm going to kick us off here first by recognizing our Forum Series presenting sponsor, Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions, as well as today's monthly sponsor, Sherman, Johnny, and Hoyt, who we will hear from shortly here. Before that, please stand and join me for a moment of reflection and prayer, followed by our national anthem performed today by the duet of Joshua Anderson and Michelle Flores from the Salvation Army Kroc Center. We take this moment to pray or reflect, each in our way, on our lives and on this moment. We are thankful for the meal before us, for the hands that prepared it, and for those who serve it. We are grateful for this day, for its blessings, its opportunities, and its challenges. May we lend each other strength and guidance as leaders in the Salem community. May we be deeply driven to always give our best and have the courage to rise to the challenges we face. Amen. Joshua and Michelle, please.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, but so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Whoa. So Michelle serves as the Core Assistant and Mission Integration Coordinator. Joshua serves as the Youth Ministry Coordinator at the Kroc Center. The Kroc Center is a place where people young and old have opportunities to learn and grow, to build dreams and friendships, and to find hope in a safe, warm, and welcoming environment. Thank you, Joshua and Michelle. That was fantastic. All right, so you should be very thankful we have no head table today, so you don't have to sit there and watch me pretend to have table manners as I maul my plate of food. So I'm going to jump right into introductions of our distinguished guests in attendance today, starting with our local elected officials. Councilor-elect Dr. Irvin Brown, Councilor-elect Shane Matthews, Salem City Councilor Linda Nishioka, and Kaiser City Councilor Shani Starr. Let's welcome them. Next, I'd like to welcome our Salem Chamber past presidents, Brent DeHart, Kathy Gordon, Richard Pine, Laura Dorn, and TJ Sullivan. Welcome. Next, I'd like to recognize Salem Chamber Board of Directors. If you could raise your hand so people could see who you are. Ted Ferry, Rich Duncan, Brandon Blair, Bill Rickey, Dan McDowell, Roger Hoy, myself, Jeff Dunn, and Eric Templeton. I'd also like to welcome any new chamber members in attendance today. If you could raise your hand so we can recognize you. And lastly, if you are here and this is your first Forum Luncheon, welcome to the Salem Chamber Forum Luncheon Series. Great. For the second season in a row, our partners at Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions serve as our Forum Speaker Series presenting sponsor. They now present a brief video profile of their company.
So Hagen Hamilton goes back to 1910. We were founded by William Warren, who was the former Yamhill County Sheriff from 1890 to 1894. We love that part of our history that we started as already involved with community service. And from 1910 all the way to 1961, the company stayed local. It continued to be local when Merrill Hagen and Mike Hamilton took over in 1961, and that name stuck ever since. My dad came into the business in 1981. He was actually living in Salem at the time and had just gotten out of the Air Force, was taking some classes at Chemeketa, had a connection to Hagen Hamilton and was hired. And then 10 years later, he became the owner of Hagen Hamilton in 1991. In my role as COO, I oversee the employee benefits department, the commercial lines department, HR, operations. And what I love most about my job is just getting to work in the family business. I get to work with my dad and my brother every single day. We've been doing that for a long time now. Growing up in an environment where my dad was working at Hagen Hamilton before I was even born, so learning about deductibles and co-pays at 8 and 9 years old was a different experience than some kids get, and it showed us the passion that my dad has for the industry, for what he does. So as we see the company grow and the success our team has had and the success we get for our customers, it's just a cool thing to be a part of. I've loved it every single day. So over the past several years, we've seen a lot of change in our industry. A lot of our peers have sold, and so being one of the last remaining large insurance agencies in the state that's still independent is something we're really proud of. I think the advantage that has for our clients is they will see the amount of care and concern that we have for each and every one of our clients. It's something that it's just true to our core. When people work with Hagen Hamilton, they can see that as a local independent agency, we know their names, we know who they are, and we care so much about their success. When we see a problem that a client is facing, we look at it as if it is our problem, because we are so invested in being here in Oregon, here in Salem. It's everything to us. So I think the difference that people will experience with Hagen Hamilton is the amount of care and concern that we have and that our team has every day.
Thank you to the John family for your support. And we're also joined today by a number of the Hagen Hamilton local team. Now it's my distinct honor to introduce our monthly sponsor today, Sherman, Johnny, and Hoyt. Dating back to 1949, Sherman, Johnny, and Hoyt has been helping residents and businesses with their legal needs. Located in a beautifully renovated historic church in downtown Salem, their attorneys place a high value on the pursuit of legal excellence, personal integrity, and community service. Kenneth Sherman Jr., who joined the firm in 1974, also served as president of your Salem Chamber in 1985-1986. Gina Ann Johnny joined the firm in 1996. Through her unwavering dedication to client service, she has attracted loyal clients who appreciate her responsiveness and follow-through. Mark Hoyt, a seasoned Salem litigator with a no-nonsense approach, joined the firm in 2004. Since that year, they've been known as Sherman, Johnny, and Hoyt. Please welcome to the podium Mark Hoyt, partner at Sherman, Johnny, and Hoyt.
Thank you. When the opportunity came up to sponsor today's event, which features some of the people from our community that have helped it thrive and made it what it is, and a group of people that will talk about how our community will continue to thrive, we jumped at the opportunity because we know if our community doesn't thrive, we don't thrive. We also know you're not here to hear about us. We've already had some kind words said about us. Thank you for those. So what I will say is this: if you need help in the realm of civil law, give us a call. If we can help, we'll lend a hand, and if we can't, we won't. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Hoffert. So.
Mark, you are a breath of fresh air, man. I love how you do your business. Since Mark didn't, I will tell you, on your seat, every one of you has a beautiful pen etched with the Sherman, Johnny, and Hoyt LLP logoing, and we'd be very appreciative if you would take that back to the office with you. And next time you're thinking about, where could I get some legal help, you look right to your desk and remind yourself that Sherman, Johnny, and Hoyt are right downtown in Salem. It is now my pleasure to bring forward 7 very talented, wonderful individuals, and all quite different. Dick, Jean, Gladys, Portia, Boaz, Cynthia, and of course, Miss Ellen Yin. Would you join us on stage? We will transform our stage. And while they are walking up, this first individual needs little introduction. Ellen Yin, you can see her, Cubicle, the CEO, her podcasting, her blog. She is internationally famous. She does incredible filming work. And so Ellen is very skilled and is going to serve as our moderator today. Next, I'd like to introduce you to our Emerging Leaders panel. That's right, we've got a cheering section. Starting with Portia Schubel with Be Well Aesthetics, Boaz Blair with State Farm Insurance, and Cynthia Laura with Bison Dump. You will note on your tables, yes. On your tables is a very deep bio sheet on each of our speakers that you can dig in more. Now, to my left, the Experienced Leaders panel, or as Dick Wihtnell, well, I won't say what you called yourselves. On my far left is none other than Dick Wihtnell, former owner and president of Withnell Motor Company, and currently now under the Withnell Battle Creek label. Senator Gene Derfler is, I think, right behind me. Gene is a senior member of our Oregon State Legislature. He's a furniture maker, he's a craftsman, and spent a lot of time in the real estate world as well. And finally, Gladys Blum with Blum Real Estate. Now, one thing that we will say, although we're not going to talk a lot about age, 264 years between the three of them. I'm going to let you do some math, letting you know Gene is 100 on the dot. Our others are 20-somethings. Okay, I've been instructed that I am not to move the podium anymore. Probably a liability thing. I tend to do that, but I'm going to turn this over to Ellen to kick us off. And Ellen, I'm going to put your timing clock up in just one moment.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you all for being here today. I am really looking forward to the conversation that we're going to be having today on the generational leadership. Oh, hold on. Let's make sure that we have everything we need. All right, I think we're good. The generational leadership and what they have built here in Salem as their legacy, and then also what us as emerging leaders are hoping for in our role in the betterment of Salem moving forward. So let's actually start with your individual perspectives on Salem and your hopes for Salem. So I'd actually love to start with you three and sharing your hopes for Salem and the future of the city. Dick, if you don't mind, I'm going to hand it off to you first.
Well, on the way over here, Gene and I were commenting how appropriate it is to have attorneys support this meeting we're having. For some reason or other, it had a lot to do with our growing up here in Salem. But to be serious, it's really interesting to be here, especially with these two here. I don't know the young people that well. 40-year-old is about where I am, down to the level of really knowing people in the community. But Gene and Gladys, so I mean, they're amazing what they've done in this community. We've both lived here over 55 years, and that's pretty significant. I can just say very briefly that this giving back to the community was brought to me in 1970 when I came back to U.S. Bank down from Portland, and the U.S. Bank had their board meeting in Ladden Bush. Ladden Bush, of course, had 176 employees at that time. Now I think there's 3 there. But Jerry Frank was involved on the board, and matter of fact, I even brought that today. I don't know if many of you know Jerry Frank. He would give you one of these things, and it's a little globe of the world, and he would say to you, you have received this, and the world's yours. And of course, I didn't register that too much. And then in 1940, or excuse me, in 1980, purchased our first dealership, and Gene called me up and said, "Congratulations, I understand you paid off Emerson." And he says, "But you didn't pay off Emerson." And I said, "Well, yes, we did. Gail and I worked about that." And he said, "No, the people that bought your goods and services paid off Emerson, and when are you going to give back?" And at that time, he just really, it didn't resonate with me. Even at 40 years old, I was more interested in making some money, paying off some debt, and doing all of that. But he said, and I'll show you this number 1 there. He asked me, he says, "Well, go down to the hospital, go down to the Hall of Fame," and he said, those people there, many of you won't even recognize those names. There's 1950, 1960, 1970 people who gave back to this community, and so I did that, and I wrote that down, but it didn't resonate to me at all until about after being about 45 years old, 48 years old, that it was time to give back to the community. And the reason you give back to the community is not for glorification, not for getting a recognition. It's high tide raises all boats. If the community does well, and what really kind of bothers me now is, it not bothers me, but I look at, there was 13 auto dealers here, and now there's only 4. And when there was 13 auto dealers, even though we were fierce competitors, we knew that giving back as a group even made sense. And so it's important to give back to the community.
I love your philosophy on that, Dick. And Gladys, over to you. As you're looking towards the future of Salem and your hopes for the younger generations, the up-and-coming generations, from the perspective of someone who's helped build this community into what it is today, can you share one of your dreams or hopes?
My dreams and hopes would be that you continue what has been going on for years. When I came into Salem, I just had that feel of a great community. I came from the Bay Area, and it wasn't even heard of to join in and make your community better. That wasn't even a thought. And then coming here, and over, I would hear requests. We need help. Can you support this? Or do you have time to give to this endeavor? And it was just like everybody was working together, and that was back in the 70s and 80s, and those are some tough times, but I hope that continues, because that's what has made Salem what it is today.
Yes, I definitely think the building upon the momentum that you guys have already started. I'd love to hear that perspective in just a moment, how you guys are planning to do that. But Gene, for you, what's a hope or dream you have for the future of this community that you've helped build?
Well, this community has been extremely good for me. I was transferred to Salem. I'm an Oregonian, but I was transferred to Salem. I worked for Firestone when I came home from the service. I found that corporate life wasn't something that fitted my personality, because I was kind of a maverick, and I found that you had to, if you had a problem, you had to go look in the book to find the answer to it. And so another fellow who was also fairly independent, we started the store in Salem. We each put in a small amount of money, And we used to sell, we had furniture and appliances, we used to sell during the day and at night. When we closed the store, we went out and did our delivering. And we did that for several years before we had enough of an income to start hiring people. It was interesting to be able to grow a business, but at that time there were people in Salem, and I remember they were we called them the City Fathers of Salem, and they pretty much made the community. I didn't get too involved in the community until later on, and when I had some time to do that. And I see you serve on the Juvenile Services Commission. I served on that for 6 years. Wow. Back several years, and I served on several committees for schools, and I started to return things for the community, and I watched the people grow their businesses and get involved in the community, and they truly made Salem a favorite city, I think. So I was very pleased to be a part of that, and I hope that this continues on. I think what Dick was talking about, and I think it's something for you to consider. Like he said, there were 14 car dealers. Now there's 4. The same thing in the business that I was in. And so much of our business now is going to the larger stores, so there's not as many people as independent entrepreneurs anymore. So you have a smaller group to choose from. And I'd certainly like to see us get back, if we could, to having more small businesses in Salem, because I think that's where the growth is going to come from.
I couldn't agree more. Is this on? Okay. I couldn't agree more with that sentiment, Jean. And I feel that, these 3 individuals here to my right are such a shining example of the future of entrepreneurship here in the Salem area, each either owning their own business or working in some sort of independent capacity within a larger organization. And one thing that really struck me about each of your stories that I just want to pull out is I love how, Gladys, you said you're not from the area. You came here from the Bay Area, and then Jean and Dick, you guys both got involved later in your lives, but you still have made so much change and made so many strides in that time. And so I think it's even more encouraging to see these 3 fellow emerging leaders here who are already starting to get involved in our 20s and our 30s. And I think part of that is being inspired by, community leaders like yourselves who have shown that it really does make a difference to get involved. So turning over to you, Portia, what is a dream or hope you have for yourself living and building a business in this community? And if you want to tie in how someone who is part of that generational leadership can help support those aspirations, I'd love to hear that as well.
So for me, as a relatively new business owner, for anyone else who's an entrepreneur, I kind of feel like you just jump in and you just see what happens and you just go for it. So something that I've been reflecting on is the community that I have gotten involved in. Started with greeters and it's kind of trickled out from there. But I think being in community with other people is not as common or as popular as it used to be maybe a decade ago or 20 decades ago, whatever it is. But social media and the comparison game and video games and all the things that can keep us alone and secluded, it's really easy to just fall into that and put your head down and do your own thing. But I don't think that I would have still had my business if I wasn't in community with all of these other entrepreneurs or people who are in businesses that are actively involved in the community. I think that being an entrepreneur is really scary, and life isn't the same, like I said, and so we're kind of battling against different things. So my hopes and dreams are that people will just continue to see how vulnerable it really is to put yourself in a room like this right now, which many of you maybe don't even know the person next to you, but you can get so much out of it just by showing up and hearing wisdom from people at your table or on the stage, and be able to run with that and teach you a lot.
Portia, what's your favorite way to build community or to enter spaces where maybe you are meeting new people for the first time?
Well, I love greeters. I'm definitely a social person, but something I've been really enjoying with my business is being able to volunteer with some small nonprofits and teach them about self-care and skincare and how to take care of themselves better. That has been a really fun opportunity for me, and just by doing that, I've been able to make a lot of other connections that have connected me to other people in this room. So,
I love that. Cynthia, what about you? What's your hope or aspiration that you're building here and that you would like to see people from other generations get involved in?
I think my hopes and dreams are, the same thing, being a newer business and developing that into another business is just engaging and participating, because without that, without our community, which our community are our clients, and being persistent in those efforts, it's not just about waiting for those doors to be open, it's just making enough noise that they can't keep us out. Because sometimes I feel in the industry that I'm in, it's not always the nicest, the cleanest, and I feel like sometimes I'm in rooms that I shouldn't even be in, but I'm gonna be there. And not the same thing, not being from Salem, I got here about 5 years ago. Salem gave me my business, it gave me my home, it gave me my chance to grow, and I feel the responsibility to have to give back because of what I was given. So just keep showing up, keep participating, ask what I can do, and if they say nothing, well, I'm gonna keep knocking and ask what I can do.
That's a great mentality. And since you're also a fellow transplant to Salem, like myself and like Gladys, earlier when she was talking about that in her story, can you share for those in the room who maybe didn't grow up in this community, aren't as plugged in maybe to the opportunities to serve, how you got involved and how you started showing up when you first arrived?
I think I just started showing up when I saw openings, opportunities, being part of certain boards. Oh, we're looking for someone to join. What do I do? Am I qualified under? I'm just gonna submit that application, and if it goes through, well, okay, I have something to do. And is just putting that foot forward and not being shy, being confident in what I do. Like, I know I deal with trash or remodels. So like, how can you be confident? How can I not be confident when I deal with what I deal with?
That's amazing. Boaz, to you.
Yeah, hopes and dreams. I think that something I've really enjoyed about getting involved with the Salem community, and my chair is spinning here, so I'm gonna adjust back here. A little wiggly on stage.
I found it helps to put an arm on the other person and rotate.
Oh, that's such a great idea.
Use the lever point, yeah.
Yeah. Something I've really enjoyed just since moving into the Salem area is getting involved in the community, one with Salem Chamber. Just they're really involved, and that has helped build a lot of relationships to just build confidence and also create opportunities to serve. And so I think that's really mainly like my hopes and dreams for the future. Here is just us coming hand in hand and working together and create opportunities to not only serve the community, but give back to the community there.
I know relationships are really important to you. I remember in our pre-meeting for this panel, you mentioning that several times. Have you found any challenges sometimes in perhaps developing relationships with someone who is either, let's say, outside of your generation or maybe outside of your network? And if so, what do you hope the community at large, but also the previous generations can support in that area to help facilitate some of those introductions or connections?
Yeah, honestly, I think the only time that I find trouble or, let's say, difficulties with connecting is usually when I didn't take the first step. I think that it's really important to control your controllables And so it's really easy to get caught up in like the what ifs and the question marks. And I think that when you're stuck in the question mark, you're never going to get anywhere. So just taking the first step and reaching out, it's like, hey, you have the experience, you have the connections in the community. How can I also accomplish the same thing? Like, how can I come along, and what can you help me in this path? So
That's a great reminder to be proactive about our relationships. Turning back over here, well, actually, I'm just going to borrow you again. Sorry. Turning back this way. I know that there's no shortcut to success in life, right? I feel like all of you exemplify that it takes a lot of hard work and dedication and consistency. However, I do believe there's an opportunity for many of us to shortcut other people's mistakes or lessons perhaps in life and benefit from collective hindsight, if you will. So I'm curious, is there any standout lesson or experience that you've had in your life where you've learned something valuable that you want to impart on our generation of emerging leaders? And if you can share the specific story or example tied to that learning, that would be very helpful. Does anyone want to kick us off on that?
You probably don't have enough time a day for that to to do that.
Perhaps just one that comes to mind.
Well, the first basis is it's about we and not me. That's the first thing you have to learn, is first of all to do that. But far as relationships is the main thing. And one time, for me, is a basis of, I can remember playing this game with Brian Johnson at White's restaurant, that we would list on a T account who could we call up at midnight and ask for something. Like we'd say $5,000 by 6 a.m., and then we'd make a list. And then we'd make a list on the other side on who we would answer the phone call at 12 o'clock to offer the same thing. And the goal was to have the list on the left side longer than the list on the right side. The point I'm saying is that in making mistakes, I guess you want to be specific in that. We don't want Gail to... Also, I think the audience should know that there's a miracle here, too, of marriage of about, 200 years? Really? Isn't it about that? 76 and 50 plus, 62. That's a miracle in itself. We should have an amen for that right there. This is off the record, but can you imagine attorneys buying a church? I never heard of that before. I mean, honestly, I never have. I mean, I don't want to throw rocks at these guys, but I mean, this is an expensive table right here. Yeah, we probably could have. I don't know if they would have selling cars there or not. Mistakes. I think mistakes is really thinking that the decision was you yourself and not getting advice about. I mean, honestly, sure, we're the old farts here on this end of the table, but I would not hesitate to call one phone call real fast, ask either one of these guys, what did you think of this idea? I mean, when you think if you can run this thing life individually, without a mate, without a faith, I mean, you're doing that. That's the biggest mistake that you're going to make right there.
Yeah, the power of the hive mind is definitely so potent. And I find it really interesting too what you were sharing, like challenging yourself and with your peers to create these lists of people that you can call up for big asks. And I love that mindset of, I mean, I'm sure it's stretched far beyond 5,000 now, but when you first started to create those lists, because it forces you to kind of think outside of your existing reality, right? Like when you're starting out, like maybe for some of us, it'd be hard for us to come up with a list of 100 people that we could call at a drop of the hat and ask for that type of donation or that type of commitment. But I think even just posing that question to ourselves and starting to challenge ourselves to look for those opportunities is a great lesson in of itself. So thank you for that, Dick. Gladys, do you have a lesson you want to share?
I don't know that it was a mistake, but in the 90s, I ended up hiring all three of my sons with their own different college degrees. And it worked okay. We managed for about 15 years, but it caused a little bit of tension in the family because I'm not a management type, So I had to appoint one of my sons as the manager who ruled over the other two, and it did cause some tension.
What do you feel like the main takeaway for you was from that experience? Do you feel like it was just that maybe the family dynamic can be challenging to work within, or do you feel like it was maybe not, what is the word I'm looking for, like not prefacing before they got hired on, hey, this is what it's going to look like, here's the dynamic of what our working relationship will look like and how that's separate from our family dynamics?
We should have had a family get together and discuss the pros and cons of working together, which we didn't do. And we had to face a few problems as we went along, but we did survive.
And Jean, for you?
Well, I don't think there is any secret to operating or having a business. I think the first thing is you have to take care of people. You have to take care of the customer, and you have to take care of the employee. And if you do that faithfully, you will be successful. One of the things I found when we first started our business, we didn't have any employees for the first couple of years. We did it pretty much by ourselves, but when I sold the business, we had about 40 employees. One thing I found that I remember one time when I had a salesman who was a very good salesman, but he was a little bit, didn't take care of business as well as he could. And I remember one time he sold a refrigerator, and when we got it out to the customer's house, it was the right hand instead of a left hand refrigerator. And I got real upset with him, and I went down and really gave him hell for doing that. And then I went back up to my office, and then one of the older salesmen come in. He said, "Do you know what you did, Gene?" I said, "No." He said, "You made that guy so upset he won't sell anything for the next 2 weeks." And you have to be really sensitive as you get employees, and you work for them. You have to be very careful what you say, because the things you say carry a lot more weight than they used to. So that would be one of the suggestions I would have if you wanted to take care of business.
Allowing people to improve where they maybe fell short or didn't pay attention to detail, but also still giving them that room to grow and experiment, right? Jean, you mentioned that when you first started your business, you didn't have employees, but then over time, you added to your team, obviously, as you just shared in that story. One of my favorite quotes is, if you want to go faster, go alone, but if you want to go further, go together. And so I'm just curious, what is a key hire, or perhaps an employee, or maybe a set of employees that you hired into your business that you feel like really was the catalyst or the inflection point for the growth of your business beyond just yourself?
Well, I found as we hired people gradually over the years, enthusiasm was probably the biggest thing you looked for when you were going to hire an employee. And I think kindness, you wanted to hire good people who had a really interest in growing themselves. And I think that's what you look for when you start hiring employees. We found as we hired people, we never lost anyone. They stayed with us almost the length of the time we had our business. And we became a family, and we took care of each other. And we didn't have to have the government make a law that said you have to pay health care and all that. We did that because we cared about the employees. And I think that's the secret to, if you take care of your employees and your customers, and the cheapest form of advertising is word of mouth.
Yeah. 100%. So going back to relationships then too, right? What are some of the things that you all, coming up as emerging leaders, they've imparted a lot of wisdom to you. The relationship is reciprocal. So what are some of the things that you feel like the older generations can actually learn from the innovations or ways of thinking that we hold perhaps as emerging leaders? I'm actually going to start with you this time, Boaz.
Ways that they can, okay, thinking.
Your own lesson to impart, if you will.
Yeah. You know, things that obviously I'm going to use you again here. Hi, I'm sorry. You know, there's the ways of like, okay, we have, you know, technology and a lot of these things just growing up, like Portia, you know, communicated about video games and internet and all that kind of stuff, right? So we've been hands-on with it so much through our lives, so it's very easy for that stuff to click and learn. So we can bring that a lot to the business. But also is, you know, bringing in like the energy and being, you know, from this generation where you have a lot more young, like emerging leaders coming in, is building those relationships. So I think a lot of things we can help with those who've come before us is bringing that energy and perspectives that come along with, you know, media and advertisement to just help in those realms. So I hope that helps.
You mentioned perspectives. What do you think is a commonly misunderstood perspective that older generations hold of younger generations?
I think a lot of times we can, a perspective that can be missed is that a lot of the younger generations don't have the hunger or the drive to get out and involved and to accomplish, you know, things in the community. And I think that's false. You know, I think that I have, you know, a ton of people who I go to, you know, emerging leaders with, or Salem Leadership Foundation, or chambers with, who are just hungry to get connected, who are hungry to make a difference in the community, who want to build a future for Salem. And that's also what gets me really excited too, is you go to chambers and you see everyone showing up who just want to connect and they just want to make a difference. And so I think that's one thing that can be missed a lot, where you have 3 individuals right here, you know, that, or actually 4, who prove that wrong. And yeah, I think.
That's encouraging. Cynthia, what about you? What's a lesson that you think older generations can learn from emerging leaders?
I think something that they can learn from us is that we can pivot, we find creative solutions to things, we can come together, combine resources to achieve something bigger that we're trying to do. And I think adapting to everything, we're bold, we're persistent. Like he said, we're hungry to do what we need to do. I know it might seem like we cannot reach a scale, probably not gonna have 12 dealerships, but I will grow to my own scale. And I'm not like Tinkerbell and Peter Pan. You don't need to believe in me, but I'm not gonna die. I will still be there, I will still keep growing. And big part of it is being part of the community. Again, joining boards and doing things and, you know, running on the clock just nonstop, and just that they shouldn't count us out.
Love that. And you mentioned your ability to pivot as one of your own strengths. What is a recent pivot you had to make that made a big difference in either your business's success or your involvement in the community?
I think just not disregarding my community. And I know I can get busy with life as a business owner, as a mom, as a wife, but not forget about who helped me out in the community and make time for that, because it's so easy to say, oh, I'm too busy. Not really. I was on my phone for an hour. So I can go do something productive with that hour. So just changing that mindset as well.
Yeah, that self-awareness is key. Portia, what about you?
So something I was thinking about was just that I think the generations coming up after, you know, millennials and after us have kind of been named the hustle culture, like the side gigs, and they don't really have as much drive and things like that. But I've had the opportunity to be in the room with several adults with successful businesses and things like that. But I've also had the opportunity to be around programs with at-risk youth and young adults who we're not given the same opportunities as some of us who really, really want to have those opportunities and who really, really want to be believed in. And they want people who are going to stand behind them and say, yes, this sucks. Yes, you probably shouldn't be doing this, but here's this community right here. Like, you can learn from them and you can get so much from them. And I'm 30 years old, so that will age me, but it's really fun. You know, I don't know if you guys go to Ikebox at all, but getting to, see baristas behind the counter that are 18, 19, 20 years old, and just being able to talk about life with them and spur them on to do the challenging work that it takes to become an adult and be in community. And like I was saying earlier, I think that the millennials and below us, we're really into our feels these days, and I think that's good. I think that we can't discredit what the potential is for the generations that are in their feels, because I think that we're just coming at it from a different perspective than maybe other people in the past.
Right.
Yeah, I just going to piggyback off of that just a little bit too, though. It's like I got the opportunity to work at Dutch Bros Coffee for 8 years, managed for 5 years, and you're hiring a lot of youth, and you're bringing a lot of people on who are just getting their first job. They're trying to figure out what their future holds. And one thing I learned of going through that process of hiring and training is you find so many unique personalities where people are just wanting to learn and grow, and all they need is the opportunity. So they just need the chance to get in there, and then whatever you pour into them, they will reciprocate that back. And so I think that's something too, just to remember out there, is kind of picking back off that, is that, yeah, what you see in media of people saying, okay, these generations aren't motivated, well, they're seeing it too. So when they see it, that's what they're going to tell themselves. But when someone from, an experienced generation comes alongside of them and says, you have worth, you have potential, I'm going to pull that potential out of you, then you're going to get the best out of them, and they're just going to skyrocket because it's going to be something that they're not used to hearing. And so then they're going to try to make the best out of that opportunity, and who knows what you'll find,
Absolutely. I agree with that 1,000%. In our last few minutes before we open it for audience Q&A, so we do have some time reserved for that. Make sure if you have any questions for our amazing panelists that you bring that top of mind. I'm just curious, this is kind of a two-part question. Sorry, I'm going to scroll this way. Two-part question. What is one thing that, you guys have all lived in Salem for a long time. What is one thing you feel Salem is still missing that you would like to see happen in our community, hopefully with the support of, and the collaboration, I should say, of both experienced leaders as well as emerging leaders? And conversely, what is something you feel is amazing about Salem that you really want to highlight and really make more people aware of in our community?
Well, I would say solving problems is missing. In other words, looking out the windshield, seeing a problem, getting people together of all different stripes, and then arguing one way or another, then going out the door and solving that problem, instead of ignoring the problem on the outside the windshield and sitting, or outside the window, and then sitting in the room and being so nice and everything, and then a year later saying, well, I thought you were going to change. And we need to solve the problems. And what was the second one?
What do you feel like makes Salem special, or that you're just very excited about what happening within our community?
Salem, the Marion County, is different because we live here. And if you don't like it here, then you need to leave. So I'm saying the best thing about the Mid-Willamette Valley is that we do work together here. And this is really different from Portland, Eugene, Medford. Salem is absolutely different. Marion County is different. You can't do what we've done in this community without really getting in and leaning against the community. Union Gospel Mission, YMCA, family building blocks, for example, and then the VA thing, and the other side of the YMCA, that was probably $145 million in 40 months, raised by different issues of the community. Everybody wasn't at the YMCA for the Union Gospel Mission, and vice versa, and all of that. So that is really significant in this town, and it comes together for that purpose.
Incredible impact. I'm going to actually popcorn over here so we kind of bounce back and forth. Does someone want to add to this conversation on either something you're really excited about, something that you think brings the magic to Salem, and or something you feel is still missing?
I think that, like Dick Wihtnell said, it's important to understand that we're here to collaborate and not compete. And if, I feel like a lot of people can complain about things, but let's not complain. Find something to do, find something to change what you don't like to make it better. And something that I'm excited about is just leading that to youth, because they're the next up and coming. Let them know that, yes, you can do it. Let them be their own advocate, just like we are. And the more we change that mindset, that we can all come together to make a change. And your effort doesn't have to be great. Just showing up for a few minutes, for an hour. And if you're even deciding to, I kind of want to do this, just do it. Don't think about it. Because the more you think about it, you've lost time. And just get out and do whatever it is you want to do, because the worst thing you can find out is that didn't work. And that's where the pivoting comes. Okay, find something else to do.
Yeah, and I just wanted to piggyback off that too, is just, one thing that's really exciting, and I've mentioned it multiple times, Chamber, these greeter events where, there's 140, 200 people, and I think that's really exciting just because there's all those people of different age groups coming together and getting to know each other, they're networking, and coming with ideas on how to create, to build on what's already been established here in Salem and to grow together. And I think that's exciting, and that's, yeah.
Absolutely. Over here, do you have something to add, Jean or Gladys, in terms of what you're excited about, what's missing?
I just remember, through the years, the ups and downs of the market and the conditions. And we've been through some tough times, and I'll never forget 2008, 2010, when the market crashed and different businesses, we just got together and shared ideas. What can we do? How can we support each other? Whether it was even a time of prayer. I remember in your office once, we just gathered together to share ideas. And I think it's so important that we support each other, even our competition, walk each other through the tough times. We came through some things that were happening in the neighborhood. We were alerted, and we didn't just say, I don't want to deal with it. We dealt with it. And you just have to keep doing that over and over. And as it's not going to be a perfect world as we move forward. Things are going to happen, but we all have to be involved. It's critical that we all get involved to support this community.
Yes, did you have something to add, Jean?
Well, having served some time in the legislature, I'd just like to point out the importance of becoming involved in the community. If you better take a look at what's happening in the community, and you said if you don't like it, get involved and do something about it. But if you're not happy with what the city council is doing, get involved. If they have you can go on television and see the meetings that are happening at the city council, and it has on the TV the number of people that are watching. Usually there's 5 or 6 people that are watching. Unfortunately, I had a problem myself in a worker comp situation I had. We used to hire college kids in the summertime to do delivery while our regular people took vacations. And we had SAFE come down and talk to our people about how to lift without injuring your back. And they were told by the instructor that it's very difficult for a doctor to determine if you do have an injured back. And at the end of the summer, I had 2 college kids on workers' comp that I couldn't get off of workers' comp. And I complained a lot about it. My attorney said, if you don't like it, you go do something about it. So that's one of the reasons I ran for the legislature, and it took 5 years before we were able to get that corrected. But today we have a very satisfactory worker comp system that's fair to both employers and employees. But you all, we've got, our country right now is really not in good shape as far as the hatred we have between the people, rather than trying to work together and make it work. I would suggest, I didn't run for the legislature until I was 65. You folks out here have that same opportunity. You don't have to do it right now, but you better find out what's happening in your community, what happens in the legislature, what happens in the school board. And I would tell you, you really need to get more involved in that area of your livelihood, because they do affect you, and you can make a difference. And I think what you said, if you don't like the problem, then get involved and help change it. So that would be my recommendation.
It's a great one. Absolutely. Stay informed. Act on the things that you're not happy with so you can make a difference. We have a few minutes left to take audience questions. If anyone has something top of mind that they would like to ask one of our panelists or our panelists at large, and then whoever wants to jump in. Yes. Oh, 1 second. Sorry. She's going to run a mic to you so we can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
This will be easier. I was curious about personal growth. Is in the panel's experience, has personal growth been intentional and necessary, or has it been a byproduct of the work and experiences, or has it been, not even a thought or a consideration? Personal growth.
Does anyone want to take it?
I will say that as an esthetician, something I talk to my clients a lot about is the importance of seeing themselves, taking care of themselves, valuing themselves. For me, when I decided to become an esthetician, I really love learning, and I really like having my hand in lots of different piles, and so education's always been really important. On top of that, I think, being able to be a healthy person emotionally, mentally, physically, I think all of those are super important. So as a business owner, I do continuing education throughout the year because I think it's super fun. But I really try to prioritize my own personal health, well-being, where I'm at, so I can show up to be the best business owner, the best mom, best community member that I can be. So a little bit of both. I think you should always be growing in your business, maybe even outside of it a little bit, so you have a nice skill set, but that you're really making sure you're intentional with yourself, because you only get one body and one time here. So hopefully that answers your question.
I agree. Anyone else want to?
Well, if for personal growth, and no one here should ask Gail anything about that, about me. One thing I can say for sure for the three of us here, that we like down markets. I guarantee you we have done better financially in down markets. This gal was #1 in the nation in 1980, and Prime was 23. And we had great success by not thinking about me, but we as a team when we had the first store, that Dodge store in 1980 to 85. Down markets, we were successful, not being silly, but learning that if you get people together thinking positively, you can be successful. And I know Gene was very successful in his business as well as privately, as well as the real estate. And it was all done during a down market.
So seeing opportunity in the challenge instead of obstacles. Love that. I think I saw a question over here. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Thanks for being up here, everybody. One thing I've noticed being in Salem now, it's about 2006, is Salem was really good about responding when there's a crisis, right? Fires, windstorms. But in terms of proactive volunteering, I'm seeing a dramatic decrease in that across the board. So whether it's to the voice of the seasoned leaders, the new ones, how do we inspire people that aren't already in this room to get more involved? Like, the lunches, hanging lights, CASA, whatever, it's the same people doing everything. How do we expand on that?
It's a great question. Does anyone want to share what they've seen in terms of getting people, again, outside of this room who aren't the regulars to show up?
I think the best way to reach them is, obviously you can't just like nudge them and tell them to do stuff, but just showing them what it used to be and showing them that whining, complaining, and wanting is not going to change anything. You need to be proactive to do things. There's so many people that are capable, and again, it just goes with time management, that thinking of, we don't have enough time. Yes, we do, but where are we spending that time in? And just voicing that to anyone and everyone that can hear that, and talking to the youth, talking to anyone that could hear. I joined the Marion County Fire Board. I don't think I had any business showing up in that office or anything, but there I go. Why? Because I saw an opportunity, I saw an opening, and just like we asked for them, fire department doesn't respond. Okay, are you gonna help? And I think just answering that back to them, it might not seem the most pleasant form, but again, we're not gonna wait for these doors to be open or people to just pass by them. Like, maybe we should just shove them through those doors.
I actually have an add-on thought to your question there. I was just at one of the largest Friendsgiving gatherings in Washington yesterday, and she was telling us about the genesis of how that event came to be. There was like 200 women there yesterday, and it was really interesting how she shared the very first year she hosted that event, it was 24 people in a tiny little room, and she wasn't even planning to host it again the next year, but she said, hey, if you want me to host this again, I just need each of you to promise me you'll show up with one friend. And I think that's the power of one, is if we can really, sometimes it feels overwhelming to convince the masses to want to get engaged, but I think if everyone was more intentional about, can I bring one new friend with me to something I'm going to do anyway, just to expose them to the opportunity of serving and to connect them with someone else in the community, the ripple, the exponential factor of that is massive, right? Because within years, those 24 women grew to 200, and it was all through the power of one. So I think that's huge. And then also getting into spaces that seem not related. So trying new experiences, like I'm just reflecting on how, I'm a business owner. I've been an entrepreneur for 7 years, since I was 23. And I decided randomly to compete in a pageant this past year, which is not at all related to anything I've ever done. But by entering into a space that was different than what people would expect, it actually allowed both of these diverse communities to learn about one another, because I was representing entrepreneurship on a national stage. So being able to, hear from an entrepreneur, business owner on the East Coast who messages me and says, hey, I saw you do this and I didn't even know that was possible for myself, so now I'm gonna go do that. But then conversely, seeing people in pageantry become interested in small business and say, hey, I've seen you talk about business and entrepreneurship, how can I start a business? So I think it's really about placing yourselves in communities that are different than the people you normally reach. Yes.
Hi, thank you for being here. Thanks for all the comments about serving, and especially in being involved in the chamber. But my question is, especially for the younger set, has anybody talked to you, or your thoughts across the panel on being involved in a trade association and also in service organizations? It does seem to be more common in our generation than yours, and take your thoughts on it.
For me, as far as my trade is construction, hauling and demolition, and that is something that I do want people to take and aspire to, because the labor force might just seem like, oh, you're just out there just hitting stuff. No, because you hit the wrong thing and the house falls apart. But it's something that needs to be known and shown, and it's nice to have places like C-Tech that brings that forth. And also just the comfortability of, when I show up to a job site, of course, like, what are you gonna do? Like, just giving that power to people that we can accomplish a lot of things. My personal biggest accomplishment is having to demo a 30 by 20 foot wall. And it's things that like small businesses don't make a difference, or getting into trade is not something that you should do. You should. It's lucrative. It's seeing the after of homes and things like that. And there's so many things you can do, like plumbing, electrical. It's I don't know. It's a trade that everyone should look into, should check out, and places like C-Tech are definitely bring that aboard a lot more. And it's nice to see that. It's nice to see people wanting to get to know how to use a saw, how to not use one. So I think it's definitely a field that's gonna be growing, and seeing younger people doing it, seeing women doing it, it's gonna be a lot more inspiring for the next generation.
I think to add to that, I think that for a long time there was a really big push for college to become a banker, an attorney, whatever it is, and the people who were coming to your house and loading up all your trash and taking it to the dump, like it didn't seem as glamorous. So I think just when you do know people who are interested in trades or want to open a coffee shop or whatever it is, just like you're going to stand alongside the attorney in school, stand alongside them as well and encourage that and support that.
Sorry, I also wanted to add, my background is in truck driving. I used to haul milk in Colorado, driving a tanker. And it's not something that's seen, and it's something that, like, we can all do it. I can do it. If you guys want to know what my trucker name was, it was Big Mike, because I'm not big or I'm not a Mike, but I was able to do it. And people, like, they believed that I could do it. And so I felt it, I believed it, and I saw it. And if we can just let the next people know, you can do it too. Anyone can be a truck driver. I did it. And those are jobs that, I don't know, they're pretty fun.
I love that. That's a great note to end on. Big Mike, everybody. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. And a huge round of applause, please, for our panelists.
And also for Ellen for facilitating. She did a fantastic job. So actually, I wanted to quickly, publicly, and personally thank Dick Wihtnell for selling my dad the only car my family still talks about 40 years ago, 1987 powder blue Dodge 600 SE Turbo. We nicknamed it Old Blue after 1 week. So thanks for Old Blue. Thank you again to Joshua Anderson and Michelle Flores from the Kroc Center for an absolutely fantastic national anthem. That was a treat for all of us, I think. I want to thank Allied Video, Capital Community Media, and the Salem Convention Center. Thank you to our Salem Chamber ambassadors in your Navy logo jackets for your continued hospitality at all of our events and programming. Thank you to Mark Hoyt and the team over at Sherman, Johnny, and Hoyt for your strategic partnership with the Salem Chamber and sponsoring today's event. Thank you again to Hagen Hamilton Insurance for your season-long sponsorship. Next month, and this goes to a point that Jean made, next month we kick off the new year with an insider look at the 2025 legislative long session. On Monday, January 13th, we'll host senior party leaders from both the Democratic supermajority and the Republican House minority offices as they provide us a look into how a $39.3 billion budget will get divided up and what bills we can expect to impact local business. So please register today at salemchamber.org. Also, tickets for the annual Safe Agribusiness Banquet are now on sale, also at salemchamber.org. That event is January 17th at 6 p.m. right here. Thank you to our primary sponsor, Key Bank. As we head into the holidays, the Chamber Board thanks you for your participation and your engagement with the Chamber and the staff as well. We want to encourage you to buy local, also something Jean touched on. To find a list of local stores, go to salemchamber.org. I'm really pumping salemchamber.org today. That's good. Finally, we end with a gift of the floral centerpiece right here, provided by Roth's Fresh Markets. Today's winner is Marianne Remsburg with Corbin University. Congrats, Marianne. Come on up here. So again, thank you all. See you next month, and have a great holiday season.